Welcome, and thank you for joining us on our Fight for Food campaign. We're going to start by seeing what you know about food contamination. You may be more familiar with the term food poisoning rather than food contamination. Either way, this happens when food that you eat is contaminated with something harmful. This could range anywhere from viruses to bacteria to parasites and even to chemicals. Some of you may have even been affected by food contamination in the past. It would not have been a happy memory. There are countless ways in which food contamination can occur. We're going to go through some of the ways in which it can happen. Some of these you may be already familiar with, but some may come as a surprise.
So the first stage is the production stage. This is the stage in where plants are harvested and grown, and animals are raised for food. Right from the beginning, contamination can be seen. The animals can already be infected before it even reaches the other processes. The water used for irrigation can be contaminated, which is seen if the pesticides and chemicals used for protection during growth are used improperly. And additionally, the manure used for fertilizer can also cause contamination if it is not composted correctly over time. The second stage is the processing stage. This is a stage where animals and plants are changed and what we recognize as food. This stage varies depending on what is being processed. For fruits and vegetables, contamination can be seen again if the water used for washing is already contaminated. In the slaughter process, if it's done incorrectly, bacteria from the animal's hides or fur can contaminate the final product. And if storage containers and equipment are not kept clean and up to date, bacteria can spread to the food through cross-contamination. The third stage is distribution. This is the stage in where the food is moved from the farm or processing plant to the store, restaurant, or consumer itself. Some potential areas of contamination come from food not being the correct temperature while transported. If certain frozen foods are kept in a too warm area for too long, bacteria can start to grow. Cross-contamination can once again be seen if transport vehicles are not properly cleaned after each transport. And sometimes, a piece of rotten food can be missed and make it to the distribution phase. This one piece of already contaminated food can contaminate all others during the distribution process. And lastly, the final stage is preparation. This is a stage where the food is being prepared to be eaten. Contamination can occur anywhere, in a restaurant, in an institution, or even your own home. Contamination can be seen if an employee comes to work sick. Just by touching the food, they can already be spreading unnecessary bacteria. Also, if you do not wash your utensils or equipment after each use, especially after preparing raw foods, you can contaminate your food further. And one of the biggest causes of contamination is not washing your hands throughout the cooking process.
Now that we've talked a little bit about how food contamination can happen, we will dive into the information that is more of a concern to us. That is, what kinds of diseases or illnesses can it cause? Do you know of any already? See if there are any missing from our list. We'd love to hear from you if so. Up first on our list is Clostridium perfringens. As with a lot of our contenders today, diarrhea and abdominal pain are common symptoms of infection with this bug. It's most commonly found in raw meats, poultry, or anything that sits out for a long time. We'll touch on this a little bit later. Up next is Staphylococcus aureus. As you might have guessed, symptoms of this bug include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. This bug is often associated with mayonnaise-based foods like macaroni salads. It might become present due to improper food preparation or refrigeration. Clostridium botulinum tends to lead to a more serious infection in which a person exhibits symptoms of muscle weakness, paralysis, and even respiratory distress and potential death. For adults, you should look out for foods that have been improperly canned, as this is the most common means of infection. In babies, you should watch out for honey. If they're younger than 12 months old and eat raw honey, they have a risk of developing floppy baby syndrome, which can be attributed to infection by Clostridium botulinum spores. Listeria monocytogenes is an infection often associated with pregnant women and the elderly. Ever wonder why pregnant women are told to stay away from deli meats, soft cheeses, and raw sushi meat? This is why. An infection with this bug may cause mild flu-like symptoms in mom, but could lead to more serious effects like stillbirth for the fetus. It's also associated with the elderly and may cause meningitis or a serious blood infection. Think of Listeria monocytogenes as the bug that affects those who have a lowered immune system. Escherichia coli, or more commonly known as E. coli, is probably a bug that you've heard a lot about. There are many variations of this bug, but 0157H7 is the one we're talking about today. This type of E. coli is commonly found in poorly cooked hamburger meat and causes extreme bloody diarrhea. It's even linked to serious kidney problems. Bacillus cereus. What kind of symptoms do you think this bug causes? You guessed it, watery diarrhea, abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting. This bug is found in puddings, custard, cereals, and more. It's often found in reheated rice. Has anyone ever gotten on to you about cooking your chicken all the way through? Salmonella would be the reason for that. This is another common bug that leads to abdominal pain, bloody diarrhea, fever, and vomiting. It's also found in milk and dairy products as well. Last but not least is Vibrio vulnificus. As with a lot of our bugs today, it leads to vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. It's most commonly found in undercooked or raw seafood. This could include shellfish or oysters. This bug can be potentially fatal to people with liver disease or weakened immune systems.
Okay, so now let's talk about some real-world examples. As we go through the map, we're going to see some food contamination outbreaks that occurred all around America. First, in 1993, there was a Jack in the Box E. coli outbreak. This is involved with 73 locations, 732 people were infected, which led to 171 hospitalizations and 4 deaths. In 2009, the Peanut Corporation of America had a salmonella outbreak. 714 people were infected, 9 were dead, and 3,600 peanut butter products were recalled. In 2011, there was one of the deadliest outbreaks in the U.S. caused by Listeria from ginseng farmer cantaloupe. 147 people were infected, and 33 wound up dead. In 2015, there was a botulism outbreak from home canned potatoes used at a church potluck. 29 were infected, and 1 death was seen. And lastly, there was a multi-state hepatitis A outbreak caused by strawberries imported from Egypt and used in smoothies. 143 people were infected, 56 hospitalizations were seen, but there were no deaths. So these outbreaks could have been a lot worse. Luckily, public health officials actively investigated the outbreaks to find the causation and prevent worse outcomes. Public health officials, such as the CDC, have been actively learning and teaching others about preventable measures to prevent outbreaks from happening. However, prevention is harder than it looks. Within the past year, there have been some large recalls on contaminated food. In December of 2018, all red leaf lettuce, green leaf lettuce, and cauliflower that was harvested by Adam Bros Farming between November 27th and November 30th was recalled. On November 20th, 2018, there was a Listeria outbreak from ready-to-eat pork patty rolls from Long Fung Food Products. Patty rolls produced in various states between May 21st, 2018 to November 16, 2018 were recalled. There was also a recall just a few weeks ago on April 24th. 53,200 pounds of raw ground beef was recalled by Grant Park Packing in Franklin Park, Illinois, due to a potential E. coli 0103 outbreak. This outbreak is still being investigated.
You might ask, what can be done to help? Well, it all starts with us to prevent and reduce food contamination on a large, broad scale and also on a smaller scale or at home. On a large spectrum, there are a variety of prevention programs such as quality assurance programs. Inspection systems need to be put into place and implemented. There needs to be proper training of all employees. We also need to ensure safe practices and safety education for everyone. Education and knowledge are the key to prevention. We even have to ensure safe practices at home. For at-home prevention, we need to practice proper hand washing. All utensils, cutting boards, and other equipment need to be washed in hot soapy water after each use. All food needs to be separated when cooking. Refrigerate food appropriately. Always keep pets away from food and surfaces involved in food preparation and cooking. Keep chemicals away from food when preparing and cooking also. There is no one source to blame for food contamination, but as you can see, everyone is liable to be affected. You are not a helpless victim. We all have the opportunity to enact change. Public health is literally in our hands.
As we bring our presentation to a close, it's important to remember that food contamination and foodborne illnesses are pretty common. They affect about 1 of every 6 people. That could be you. Being aware that it is a common threat is the first step in combating it. You can start small by taking extra precautions in your own home, or go big by starting a larger movement in your community. No gesture is too small in public health.
In conclusion, foodborne illnesses or food poisoning is common. 1 in 6 Americans get sick from contaminated food each year. People get food poisoning from food that has been contaminated by bacteria, viruses, toxins, chemicals, and parasites. It is important to stay proactive against food contamination for the safety of everyone. There are many ways to find out if there is a recall on food due to contamination. The Food Safety and Inspection Services website provides information on meat, poultry, and egg product recalls. The Food and Drug Administration website provides information on food, pet food, and animal feed recalls. FoodSafety.gov also provides excellent information on all food recalls and alerts on food illness outbreaks.
No public service announcement is complete without resources. So in conclusion of our presentation, we would like to offer you resources if you are ever in a situation in which you need to report food contamination in your community. Also, if you're curious regarding more information, feel free to check out the Center for Disease Control's website.